Some show up at Keeneland just to be beautiful, some for the burgoo. Me, it's because the best handicapping challenge on God's green earth is right here in Kentucky. Star horses come from Florida, California, and New York, Arkansas, and Louisiana, all to what undoubtedly is the greatest horse racing melting pot in America.
Into the stretch at Keeneland, and Flight Line just moves right by. Life is good.
Win here and you've done something. Love what you do and you'll never work a day in your life. That's Keeneland. Now, let's get handicapping. And welcome in, everybody. It's the season debut of the 2023 Fall Meet Keeneland Look Ahead. I'm Jeremy Plonk from Horse Player Now. My 16th year working with Keeneland. I believe this is our 4th or 5th meet now doing the Keeneland Look Ahead podcast. Hopefully you've enjoyed these as we go through each and every race on the card from a handicapper's perspective, not just like who do we like, but how do we strategize on the card? That's really the key to these podcasts. We look at it from a big picture, and we will give you a big picture graphic of the entire 10 race opening day card coming up on Friday at Keeneland. The weather this week started out summery, but by Saturday, it's going to feel a lot like autumn. Temps only in the 50s on Saturday, probably pushing around 70 degrees on opening day Friday. We record our podcast, of course, and stream it live for you at 8:30 Eastern the night before each day's card. We'll do that throughout the course of the meet. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday racing here, first weekend at Keeneland. We'll have podcasts on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night. 8:30 Eastern, the stream. If you don't catch it live on YouTube or on Twitter, be sure to check it out in the archives. And obviously hit those like buttons, the retweets, X now, I guess it is. But give us a repost on X if you would, a retweet, and certainly hit that like button on YouTube. Share this with friends and help grow the audience for the Keeneland Look Ahead podcast. I'll also be able to dial up some information for you by email this season. You'll be able to check that out on Substack. So if you go to Substack and sign up, Jeremy Plonk, all one word, sign up for my Substack, and I'll send you email information each and every day of the meet. A lot of the stuff that I post on the blogs, my picks, my stats, and trends that you can get at Keeneland.com. Get it in your email box when you sign up at Substack. So a lot going on for this meet. We're expecting the weather to be a little rainy in the morning, give way to mostly sunny skies, partly cloudy skies throughout the afternoon. So we're going to get the races on the turf, it looks like, on opening day. Keep an eye on the track conditions always. Be sure to check your local weather forecast in the morning for Lexington, Kentucky, and be sure to tune in at 11:30 a.m. Eastern each racing day for Keeneland today, where Scott Hazelton is back to host, but his partner, Gabby Gaudette, she's got bigger fish to fry right now. She is out on maternity leave. So best wishes to Gabby Gaudette and her husband, Norm Cassies. They're expecting a child. And filling in her shoes ably this meet in the Keeneland Handicapper Selectors Box, which we'll show you in just a minute. And on the simulcast feed alongside Scott Hazelton will be Caton Bradart, good friend of mine, Caton with Horse Player Now for many years. We went on a bunch of junkets around the country on fan education tours and helped co-host the night school program for all those years. So Caton, a great friend. Absolutely. Those of you who follow racing know her very well. She's going to do a fantastic job in that simulcast analyst role alongside Scott Hazelton. So we've got a 10 race opening day card, 3 featured races. We got 3 stakes races amongst those. The Alcibiades Stakes, where it's a big showdown. I mean, Vivi's Dream, one of the horses that you've really got to look at, and Bright Work towards the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies. They get a rematch in the featured race, the Alcibiades. Let's take a look from the big picture of what this 10 race card looks like and where we may try to attack it. 10 races on the program. If it's the first time you're seeing the podcast and the big picture, the way we look at this each and every card is, where do the multi-race wagers start? Because a lot of times they're going to overlap, and you want to kind of strategize your plays throughout the day. Early pick 5 at Keeneland traditionally begins on the first 5 races on the card. So race 1 starts the early pick 5. The pick 4 for the early version will start in race number 2. Pick 6, the final 6 races on the card, happens to be race numbers 5 through 10 on this program. So that'll start in race 5. The green numbers, or the green denomination there, is for the Turf Pick 3. The Keeneland Turf Pick 3 is that $3 minimum wager on 3 turf races. The Pick 3 races 5, 8, and 10, the 3 grass races on this opening day card. To the back half of the program we go. Race number 6 will start the late pick 5. The $200,000 guaranteed late pick 4 begins on race number 7. That'll also be our first of 3 stakes races on the program, that one being the Phoenix Stakes. Then in race number 8, we'll have Stakes Company again as the Turf Pick 3, includes the Jessamine, I believe, is the 8th race on the card coming up on Friday. And then the 9th race will be the featured Darley Alcibiades. Turf Pick 3 wraps up in race number 10. Now, I've got 3 key plays at the bottom of the screen. You don't have to scribble them all down now. They may not make sense just in graphic form, but we will explain each and every one of those as we get through the card. And why I provide 3 key plays on every program is for a good reason, because there are not 10 great plays on every racing card. We'd love to say that as track promoters, but there just aren't. As a gambler, I want to be honest with you. Where do you have your top plays on any program? That's the beauty of handicapping early and getting ahead, because you know where your key plays on the program should be. Then you're in a situation of assessing the tote board. Am I getting the value that I want? Have there been changes? Have the track conditions changed from when I handicapped previously? But when you get that big picture view and you can tell where your big plays are going to come from the day, then your budget will always be appropriate. That's key. You've got to bet the most on the horses you like and the least on the races you don't like, if not skip them altogether. People ask a lot of times, what's your best asset as a horse player? Patience. Not everybody has it. Most people don't. Be patient. Wait for your plays. Wait for the right opportunities. Wait for the right price, and strike with confidence when you have patience, and you'll be ahead of a lot of players. Remember, it's a pari-mutuel game, so we're all playing against each other. Nobody has the magic serum. Nobody has the inside dope and the information. Every once in a while, you might hear a buzz here and there as an insider, but you as a fan out there, you have just as good of an opportunity to display patience and confidence as anybody in horse racing, and that's what playing the races is all about. So work on those skills, and we'll try to pick you some winners along the way and help you find your own winners, because that's what this is all about. Now, I tell you my picks and what I'm looking at throughout the card, but it's not a one-man show. It is on camera, but I think when we go to the Keeneland Handicapper Selectors Box, where you can get these selections free each day at Keeneland.com, this gives you a good look at how multiple public handicappers look at the program. So Scott Hazelton and Caton Brader are, of course, part of the simulcast program. Pedigree expert Kim Nelson's been with the Handicapper Selectors Box as long as I can remember. She's a veteran. She's always got good picks, especially pedigree-wise, turf player. Tom Leach, great long shot player. You're going to see his long shot plays of the day on the simulcast. Of course, Tom, the play-by-play voice of the Kentucky Wildcats, the undefeated Kentucky Wildcats. I think Louisville and Kentucky are both undefeated in football as the Keeneland meet starts. I don't know if that's ever happened before. I kind of think they're both 5-0 or 4-0 at least for the first time in school history at the same time. So it's a big fall for Tom Leach, obviously, with football going on, but he does a great job getting interviews and also providing handicapping selections. So we look at the Handicapper Selectors Box, not just to give you, a potpourri of different opinions, but to show where we may coalesce and where we agree and then where we disagree on particular races. As you read left to right across these Handicapper Selectors Box, we'll see, like, for instance, as we start in race number 1, Archie the Giza, the 5, is my top pick, also the top pick of Scott. Tom's got that runner second. Caton's got that runner second. Kim doesn't use the 5. So you kind of look at this race and you see the 5, the 1, the 5, the 8, and the 11. 4 different horses are picked on top in race number 1. That may not give you the sense that this is a race where there's going to be a heavy favorite. When 5 public handicappers have 4 different horses on top, chances are we're going to get a fair price. And that's why we look at that Handicapper Selectors Box. And we'll go back to it throughout the course of this 30, 35, 40-minute podcast as we preview each and every race and give you my opinions on them. As we say, from the big picture, we're looking for our 3 key plays of the day. They're spread out throughout the program. I don't have a ton that I really like, 2, 3, 4 on the program. So the first part of the card, the best play I've got is in race number 1, and angles abound for me here, and I'm talking handicapping angles in race number 1. This is a maiden claiming race at 1.16 miles on the main track. $100,000 maiden claimer, so this is just a touch below a maiden special weight. But when we see these races for these high claiming tags in the maiden ranks, I'm looking for horses coming out of maiden special weight races. Typically, they're going to have a little bit of a class advantage. And a horse in here, Archie the Giza, does drop out of the maiden specials. This is going to be one of my key plays. Cairo Prince, the sire, absolutely does great. 23% winners in dirt routes at Keeneland with his offspring. That's a fantastic number. 45% of the Cairo Princes going long on the dirt at Keeneland finish in the exacta. So I like Archie the Giza, first time over the track at Keeneland. The other angle I really like with this horse is ran a 1-turn mile last time at Churchill. Now goes the mile and a 16th at Keeneland. That's a 2-turn race. Yes, it's different, but remember, the 2-turn races at Keeneland end at the 16th pole. So horses don't have to have a ton of stamina. You need to come off the turn in good position, finish up well at the 16th pole, and that's it. You don't have to go all the way to the proper wires. So a horse coming out of those 1-turn miles are usually a little more brilliant. They can be in position in the race, and they don't need the stamina required for most traditional 2-turn type races. So that's why I like those 1-turn mile horses at Churchill, stretching out to the mile and a 16th at Keeneland. Archie the Giza fits that. Great siren, Cairo Prince to like the track, and Christian Torres, the jockey. I watched this guy at Remington Park over the last couple of years. Last year, when he was leading jockey at Remington, he was leaving at the end of the fall meet to go work horses on off days at Oaklawn Park in Hot Springs, Arkansas. That's a long way. That's like 6-7 hours away by car ride. And he was doing that on his off days before the Oaklawn meet even started. It told me at that time he was the leading jockey at Remington Park that this kid had a massive future ahead of him. His hard work and dedication was going to get him places. He went on to become the leading rider at Oaklawn in the spring and has had a really good year in Kentucky. Christian Torres, a future star in racing as a jockey, and I think he might get this Keeneland meet off to a start. So I'm taking Archie the Giza in race number 1. And again, as you look across with my other selectors in the handicappers box, some different choices in there, but Archie the Giza, one who's picked amongst most of the handicappers, have him at least in the top 2 in the mix. Let's go to race number 2 in here, and we've got Twirl Around picked on top, and Royal Slipper also gets 2 top choices in here. So Scott and I are on Twirl Around. The gals have Royal Slipper with Kim and Caton. Tom's going with Charlotte's Approval, and Tom's a little bit on an island here with the 6, the only one with that runner on top, and not picked across the way in a lot of different spots. So maybe check out Tom Leach's opinions on why he's got Charlotte's Approval as a potential long shot play in here for trainer Mark Casse. I did go with a first-time starter in this spot. Maiden special weight races in the fall here at Keeneland. We've got the 2-year-olds. Generally, you're looking for first-time starters and horses who prepped at Churchill Downs. They really have the statistical edge in these races. We don't see a lot of horses have a ton of success from Saratoga and New York coming here in the 2-year-old maiden special weight ranks. Not that they're not of quality. You just don't get the best horses broke their maidens already probably in New York by this time of year. So you're not getting the best of the 2-year-olds in New York. Plus, there's a lot of good slots money at Aqueduct to run for right now with the 2-year-olds. So I think the Kentucky 2-year-olds that run at Keeneland are the ones you want to watch. And of course, the first-time starters, people want to win at Keeneland at first asking. So they bring their good 2-year-olds to debut here, more so than they would at Ellis Park in the summer in the Churchill September meet. Purses are great here. $100,000 maiden special weight race. So a good opportunity for a first-time starter to come out flying. I went with one of those rookies named Twirl Around. This is a Twirling Candy filly, first-time starter. A couple bullet workouts at Churchill Downs for trainer Greg Foley. Foley's had a good season this year in 2023 across Kentucky. You know that if you've been following the races. He's not really known for winning with first-time starters, however, so I'm not wild necessarily about this selection, but I like the fact that Foley goes and gets Tyler Gaffalione, perennially the leading jockey here at Keeneland. He and Luis Saez have handed off each of the last maybe 10 titles of the different meet titles here at Keeneland. So when Foley can go with a first-time starter, like it's like a 5, 6, 7% first-time starter barn, but they can go get the leading jockey on a rookie. That tells me that the agent for Gaffalione, the connections with this horse, think they've got something pretty good. And 26% is the win rate when Foley teams up with Gaffalione. So that they team up with this first-time starter. I'm going with Twirl Around in here. Royal Slipper, the first-time starter for trainer Wesley Ward. We know Ward can win with 2-year-olds at Keeneland like crazy in the spring. He's not as effective with his 2-year-olds in the fall. So Royal Slipper might be a horse who's a bit of an underlay on the tote board. I'll respect the workouts look quick enough. Has local workouts here at Keeneland, which I always like to see with a first-time starter. And by Uncle Mo, that's a pedigree. This filly should like the track here at Keeneland. Uncle Mo's really had a strong last couple of years. So Royal Slipper, one to watch in here, a first-time starter. Another firster to watch is Lady Chai. Lady Chai, one you want to watch here in race number 2. This is a $570,000 daughter of Quinteros. You wouldn't expect to pay that much for a daughter of Quinteros, but it's a half to Tarabia, a horse who last year ran 3rd in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies, was a debut winner. Tarabia, really nice 2-year-old filly into the 3-year-old season this year. So be on the lookout for Lady Chai. Luis Saez, the other perennial leading rider here, lands for Cherie DeVoe on a first-time starter. Again, that's good stuff to look at. So Lady Chai, Twirl Around, the first-time starters, I think that are the most to watch. Royal Slipper, obviously, you want to consider for Ward, but he is not the same kind of powerhouse in the maiden ranks here in the fall meet as he is in the spring with the 2-year-olds. Wesley Ward will be dominant in the turf sprint races. Tuck that away, no matter which meet we're talking about. But certainly keep an eye on his runners on the turf sprint scene. But in the 2-year-old ranks with the first-time starters, not quite the same for Ward in the fall as we see in the spring. Back to the big picture as we take a look at the pick 4. We'll start in race number 2. No races starting in or no wagers starting up in race number 3. No new wagers in terms of the multi-race bets. Of course, rolling daily doubles and pick 3s offered at Keeneland. But in this third race, let's go to the handicapper selectors box and see what we've got across the way here. Bandita is going to be a pretty big favorite in this race. I'm surprised not picked more on top. Kim and Scott both picked the 6-5 morning line chalk Bandita. 8 3/4 length debut winner at Gulfstream back on January the 29th. And that's the key. This Todd Pletcher trainee, of course, a $350,000 filly by Gunrunner, expected to be good right out of the block. She won at even money in her career debut and won easily. And you say, well, should she be tough to beat in this first level allowance race? Absolutely. But it's the about 7 furlong distance. 7 furlongs as tough as it gets in racing. It's a demanding 7 furlong sprint trip. You've got to run the whole way. There are no breathers. So that's a tough one off the layoff. And I look back at the stats and the free Keeneland database that you can go download it into Excel or just look at it on the screen at Keeneland.com. Check out that handicappers database that helped Keeneland start back in 2007. It's really an effective use in my handicapping. And what I found in these 7 furlong allowance races at Keeneland, at this class level, you just don't have horses win off of long layoffs. We've had 20, I've only got 27 of these races in the database. First, second level kind of allowance races going 7/8 of a mile in the fall meet. Only 3 of the horses that won did not have a prep in August or September. You've got to be in form and running to win these 7 furlong tough allowance sprints like this. So that's why I'm taking a shot against Bandita. I give that stat because Bandita, the 6-5 morning line favorite, hasn't run since January. Absolutely could win, but am I going to take a 6-5 price on that? Maybe not. That's a chance maybe to take a stand against that runner. You've got to have a strong conviction, though, if you want to beat the horse. And I don't really have that. And that's why it doesn't come up among my key plays of the day because, yes, I'm trying to beat a 6-5 morning line favorite, but I don't have a strong conviction here. I did go with Mariah's Appeal on top. That's my top choice in here. This is a distorted humor filly for Phil Bauer. Comes out of a 1 1/8 race at Saratoga, cuts back to the 7 furlongs. I'd prefer a horse not to cut back from such a drastic trip, but this horse was effective at a 1-turn, almost 2-turn mile at Saratoga, where they kind of have that elbow start, kind of like they do at Ellis Park. If you look at the race 2 starts back, Mariah's Appeal, that's a race that's similar to what we're going to see here at the 7/8 mile trip, and that horse was able to be up near the lead throughout. Distorted Humor, a veteran sire, but has had really a good renaissance here at Keeneland on the dirt in the past couple years. The Distorted Humors have been running well, and there's some good pedigrees in this race. In fact, I really like pedigree handicapping when it comes to Keeneland because it can be a horse for course track like few others. Remember, these horses only get a couple chances in their life to run at Keeneland, right? So you've got to kind of jump on if a horse has run good or bad at Keeneland in the past. You've got to really take that into big consideration. But a lot of horses aren't going to have Keeneland form because there's only 4 weeks in the spring and 4 weeks in the fall. So pedigree becomes a big deal. And I kind of, you talk about the high-tech nature of handicapping and stuff. I mean, I just kind of went through the database and started marking off, all the horses here that are the turf sires that I want to look at, all the dirt sires that I want to look at here. And so I've gone through my list and I kind of go and mark my past performances with those top ones. And you'll see that in my stats blog at Keeneland.com. I'll make mentions of horses who are effective at Keeneland with the dirt pedigrees, especially because we really get fewer even turf races, right? 2 or 3 a day max throughout the course of a meet. So it's hard to do pedigree handicapping on the turf at Keeneland. Easier to do so, I think, when it comes to the main track. But just in this third race alone, I bring it up at this point in time because you've got New Beat, who's by Not This Time. This is definitely a horse you want to follow when his offspring run on the main here at Keeneland. Super Saver, another. He's got 2 item saver in this race. Distorted Humor that I mentioned, the sire of Mariah's Appeal. Then you've got Union Rags, who has Elvisa in this race, and Honor Code, who's got ridiculous numbers with his offspring. This is one I haven't followed a lot. Some of these other names you've heard me meet over meet, so you want to follow these horses here at Keeneland. But Honor Code's one that's really come to fore now. The numbers are starting to, coalesce and become strong. So Honor Codes runners, that's HT Xena in this race. Horse may not look, on paper off the February layoff like you want to bet in this particular spot at 7/8 of a mile. But again, another one with a pedigree, a sire who does really strong with their numbers here at Keeneland. So that's race number 3. Let's move on to the fourth race next on the program. The fourth is another first level allowance race. This one only at 6 furlongs, not 7. You want to be a lot closer to the pace in these 6 furlong sprints compared to the 7 furlong races. The average winner at this 6 furlong allowance trip over the years on the dirt at Keeneland is a half length off the lead after the opening half mile. You pretty much want to be right up in the mix going 6 furlongs at this class level. So race number 4, I've got Twirling Queen on top. This is a Norm Cassie trainee who showed some speed in recent races, and there's a ton of early speed in this race. But one of the reasons I like Twirling Queen over the other speed runners in here is because she last ran 6.5 and 7 furlongs, and I think that cut back in distance is going to be effective. This is the kind of race that when you handicap it on paper, you say there's a ton of speed in here. It may set up for a closer. But the profile for 6 furlong races at Keeneland and this kind of trip tells you somebody up front's probably still going to hold on and win it. So that's why I'm going with a horse who's got early speed, but could have a little more endurance because of those longer races most recently. The cut back in distance means the horse is running shorter today than they had ran in previous races. So previous races at 7 furlongs and 6.5. Today only has to go 6 furlongs. If effective enough to go towards the front, Twirling Queen could have the stamina to hold off the other speed horses in here. So that's why I'm on Twirling Queen here in race number 4. The temptation in this race is to get cute and take Kenwick as the closer because there is so much early speed in this race. Owen Hardy trains this well-bred Bernardini filly for Godolphin. Kenwick comes off the synthetic and the turf at Presque Isle and at Hawthorne. It's going to be a step up in class to take on this level of competition. The speed should come back a little bit, though. So if you want to play some exotics, I think Kenwick's an interesting horse to play second. I'm not going to get in any trifectas with this particular field size. There's not enough horses in here. I want 10 or more to get into the trifecta. But I've got Kenwick in there second. Scott's also got Kenwick picked second in here, maybe for the same thought that this horse is going to get a fast pace and she can pass some tired horses. But these kind generally don't win 6 furlong sprint allowance races at Keeneland. So Kenwick underneath, but not in the top spot in race number 4. Let's move on to the 5th race on the card, and this is where we're going to get back into the big picture, let you know that we've got the pick 6 starting in this race, as well as the Keeneland Turf pick 3. And if you look at my key plays of the day, this is my second key play on the program. It's going to come up in race number 5. The filly's name is LJ's Emma. LJ's Emma, the 4-horse in here. And I say Saez learned a lesson. What do we mean by that? If you go back and look at the turf sprint this filly ran at Keeneland back on April 23rd here in the spring meet, she made a big rally, made the lead too soon, and then started kind of drifting and moving in the stretch. Luis Saez probably learned that day you don't want to make the lead too soon on a filly like this because Saez has ridden her twice since. He's waited longer both times, and they got to the winner's circle with a well-timed move. Now Saez is back aboard. This horse at Kentucky Downs last time out had Corey Lannery aboard. I give horses mulligans who don't necessarily run a great race at Kentucky Downs. It's a different track. It's different circumstances than they're used to seeing. This filly, though, likes Keeneland. She's run well here in the past, and she's got good form everywhere outside of the race at Kentucky Downs last time. I think LJ's Emma with Luis Saez is going to be very effective in here. And the sire Into Mischief, interesting in here because, as I tell you, I look at all the pedigrees. Nobody's won more races as a sire on the Keeneland dirt since 2014, since we went back to dirt, than Into Mischief. But he's got a lot of numbers to do that. The percentage isn't necessarily that great of the Into Mischief's win percentage on the main track. He's actually better on the Keeneland turf by win percentage, considerably better than he is with his offspring on the dirt. So while we like to look at those Into Mischiefs on the dirt a lot, consider on the turf at Keeneland. That's LJ's Emma, the 4, and well drawn in here. We've got a big field of 11. I like to post 3, 4, and 5 when we get into these big field turf sprints, a statistical advantage there. So give me the 4, LJ's Emma, as one of my key plays of the day. In fact, probably the key play of the entire day coming up in race number 5. And I've only got one other handicapper picking LJ's Emma on top. So that tells me we're going to get a fair price on this one. It's not a situation where 3 or 4 of us all have the same horse on top and we're going to be kind of expecting a short price. Daring Do for Wesley Ward, a horse you've got to consider. The 3 Murky for Wesley Ward. Here's a stat for you. Over the years at Keeneland, our database goes back to 2006. We've got a ton of turf sprints in the database. Todd Pletcher is second with 8 turf sprint wins at Keeneland since 2006. Rusty Arnold is third with 7. They've got 8 and 7 ranking second and third. Wesley Ward has 46 turf sprint wins. Nobody else more than 8. So when you get a turf sprint at Keeneland, you absolutely have to, whether it's the spring or the fall, consider the Wesley Ward trainings. We told you that again at the top of the program. But in this race where we get to our first turf sprint of the meet, the 3 Murky, the 8 Daring Do have to be considered in here. But that's going to keep the price down because the Ward horses are going to get bet. That will help us with LJ's Emma, who I think the play of the day for me in race number 5. We'll go with that one as we move our attention now to the back half of the program. 6th race on the card is a pick 5 starter. The pick 5 opens here with a maiden special weight. Just like race number 2 on the program, these are maiden special weight 3-year-olds. I told you the horses, first-time starters in Churchill Downs, are the 2-year-olds you want to look at here at Keeneland during the fall meet in these maiden special 2-year-old races. We do have some Churchill runners in here. They both come out of the same race. It's Plan Champagne and Pinup Betty. They ran 3rd and 6th respectively in a race September 16th at Churchill Downs. But I'm not going with either one of those. That race was won by a horse making its that was won by an exacta. The top 2 finishers in that race paid $488. A complete surprise, not the kind of 2-year-old race where you say, wow, there was really something in here. Everybody knew it. And it was a strong 2-year-old race. When the exacta pays $488, I'm going to take the handicapper's guess that it was not as strong a 2-year-old race as we're going to see in Kentucky this year. So I'm going to be against the 2 Churchill horses in here, Pinup Betty and Plain Champagne. And that's going to put me on all the first-time starters then. If not the Churchill horses, you want to look for the first-time starters in these particular races. That's essentially what we have. We've got first-time starters against those couple runners from Churchill Downs. So Pour Some Wisdom is one I'm going to take a chance with. This is a little bit of a wise guy pick in here for me. Not a strong conviction at all. But trainer Tim Ham is based in Ohio. He's had some good horses over the years. You'll remember Too Much Bling, who went on to some really good things. Ham had that one as a 2-year-old out of Ohio and went on to do some big circuit things. And the horse was obviously sold then and moved to Bob Baffert's barn, I believe, when it was all said and done. But Ham's had some good horses over the years. And when he leaves Ohio with one to come to Keeneland to run in one of these $100,000 maiden specials, my spidey sense kind of goes up. And I think Pour Some Wisdom, the one, might be pretty good in here. He gets a really good speed jock in Gerardo Corrales to ride. You're going to have to be fast to win a debut from the rail, but we're going to hope that he pops and that he and Corrales pops this filly out of the starting gate. She's by the factor out of a midshipman mare. That's speed on early precociousness. So let's see what we've got here. I'm going to take a shot with Pour Some Wisdom. Not a very strong opinion in here. Obviously, the first-time start for Brad Cox on the outside. Burlane would get some interest from a lot of players in here, being Brad Cox. This one's trained at Turfway, though, and that's not the MO that we see with the Cox 2-year-olds coming here to run at Keeneland. He hasn't had success with those that have stabled at Turfway and have been training there over the years. I know they haven't had year-round training at Turfway over the course of all the time either, so that could be a factor in it. Just not sure if Cox had one of his top 2-year-olds that would be training at Turfway through the course of the summer and not with him at one of the other venues. So we'll see with Burlane, the first-time starter, in there. Amongst the other handicappers, let's take a look across the way here. We've got in race number 6, Carolina Candy, Plain Champagne, Bourbon Breeze, Tammy Lynn, Pour Some Wisdom. 5 different handicappers, 5 different horses on top. There is no real first-time starter to grab a hold of, no real experienced horse to grab a hold of in race number 6. If you're looking at the multi-race wagers, again, the 6 starts that late pick 5. This is going to be a spread race for a lot of people. Now, the 2-year-old maiden special races are usually pretty formful. The public does a good job doping these out. But this race looks like it has the potential for a price. That's why I'm taking a shot with Tim Ham, and I'll take the horse down on the rail in the 6th race, Pour Some Wisdom. Let's go to the 7th race. It's our first of 3 stakes races. It's the Phoenix Stakes. 6 furlong prep here towards the Breeders' Cup Sprint. Manny Waugh, the defending champ, won this race at 17-1 last year. Horses also in this race, Top Gunner and Sibelius ran 3rd and 4th. So we've got the 1, 3, 4 finishers from last year's Phoenix. Some of them haven't run as well. Manny Waugh has not been as good as he was the day he won here in the Phoenix at 17-1. He's really got to bounce back to try to repeat in this race. His form hasn't been as good. Sebelius, on the other hand, went on to win the Golden Shaheen $2 million race in Dubai this spring. He's gotten better since last year's race in the Phoenix. Now he's coming off a couple dull efforts since. So when the horses come back from Dubai, you don't really know what you're going to get out of them. Sebelius hasn't run as well in the Aristides or in the at Del Mar in the Bing Crosby, but there was a lot of travel involved there. Sebelius gets back to a track that he's run well over in the past. He won here. He ran a good fourth last year in the Phoenix. He's by not this time. Again, one of those sires who gets a lot of success. So I'm going to take Sebelius in the 7th race, the Phoenix Stakes. This is a race where favorites have done pretty well in here since going back to dirt 9 races ago and the 2014 fall meet. 6 favorites have won. 7 winners of the Phoenix have been 3-1 or less since we've gone back to the dirt. So we don't want to find anything too far off of the form in here. Gulfstream Way, a top choice in here. Nakatomi, Bango, Sebelius. Those 4 seem to be the ones everybody's kind of got their focus on in here. And would be no surprise to see Nakatomi, a horse who's run really well with 3 wins over the track here at Keeneland. The horse who won the Bowman Mill Stakes back here in 2021. Definitely has good form here. Bango's the question mark for me. And if you look at my picks in here, I'm going, to the 3rd slot until I get to Bango because this horse has been phenomenal at Churchill Downs. One of the all-time greats at Churchill. In fact, number of victories, Bango, I believe, is tied for the most victories in the history of Churchill Downs. Maybe one up now after the most recent effort. So Bango loves Churchill Downs. Absolutely a win machine there, but has not had its success at Keeneland. 2 starts here at Keeneland off the board both times. So while Bango's in great form, 9 straight top 2 finishes, I'm going to try to beat him in this particular spot, but I will respect him, and I would not play a pick 4 or pick 5 without using Bango. I think this is a race where I'm going to be 3 deep in here. Sebelius, Nakatomi, Bango horses in race 7 that we want to get our teeth sunk into a bit. And this is where I get a key play because we're going to get a price in the 7th race stakes and also a price I like in the 8th race stakes race. So with Nakatomi in here for Ward with that good local record, with Bango's great recent form, Gulfstream Way is going to get played. Sebelius could be 3rd, 4th, 5th choice in here. 10-1 in the morning line. I think we're going to get every bit of it, at least 8-1. So a nice price play for me. I'm in on Sebelius. I will go 3 deep in the multi-race wagers. But as far as intra-race goes, I want Sebelius with Bango, Nakatomi underneath and try to really go after the exactas in that way. Gulfstream Way underneath in the exacta as well. You could use Manny Waugh under, but I'll take Sebelius over those 3 or 4 horses and really try to lock down an exacta as one of the key plays in race number 7 as the late pick 4 gets underway. 8th race on the card, another key play for me. It's the Jessamine Stakes, a mile and a 16th on the turf here. This is a race where there's another price potential play, and this is a race where, maybe we can get ourselves a price because in the last 5 years in this race, the Jessamine Stakes, every winner has been 11-1 or more. I should say 5 winners in the last 17 years have been 11-1 or more. So we're getting some horses at some prices in this race. Favorites have had success, so it's been kind of all or nothing. The wheels come off or we get a chalk in here. I'm going to take a chance that the Saratoga form and the New York form holds. In those 17 years since we've got our database up and rolling, 10 winners of the Jessamine Stakes have come off the NYRA circuit, 8 at Saratoga, 2 from Belmont, and we've got no other circuit producing more than 2 winners. So the New York horses are traditionally stronger than what we see here in Kentucky in this time of year to produce horses for this race, for the Jessamine Stakes. There's only one horse from Kentucky, there's only one horse coming into Kentucky from New York, and that's the 2-time Saratoga runner-up. Close maiden finishes for a pellet in both career starts. I'm going to take a shot at this one, and I'm on an island here. You get out to Kim. She's also got a pellet on top, I should say. So 2 of us have this runner on top. Todd Pletcher brings this filly in. Pletcher's had some success in this race in the past. He won it with Sweet Melania. A pellet's a filly who was entered earlier this week in the Miss Grillo Stakes. They scratched out of that spot. Pletcher ran 2nd in there with another runner, but they scratched out of that one to run here at Keeneland. The Beyer figures aren't that big. I don't think the horse is going to get bet, but face some really, really slow paces in New York. And when you get slow-paced turf races, you are not going to see a big Beyer speed figure. So I'm not worried about the Beyers at all. It's Pletcher and Irad. I think 10-12-1 in the morning line. Even if we get 6-8 on a pellet, I'd be in on that one. One of my key plays of the day. Again, I'm playing that New York angle in the Jessamine Stakes. 10 winners from the NYRA circuit in the last 17 years of this race. compared to 2 from any other circuit. So the New Yorkers have just been stronger. I'll put Appellate on top. I do not have a strong opinion of anybody else in the race. Time to Dazzle, a horse off the Woodbine debut win for Mark Casse. But Casse, you would think, would have ran this filly back in the Natoma, but it was too close. It was that time of year where she was debuting in mid-September, so the Natoma was all out of the works. I don't know if the timing works for her, and we'll see what Time to Dazzle can offer here from a good post position. She's my second choice here, but I do not have a strong opinion of anybody else. And that really is going to put me in an interesting situation. When we look at the late pick 4s and the late pick 5s, I'm going to single Appellate in the Jessamine Stakes. It's a maiden. I get it. I just don't have an opinion on other runners in there. We can spread and get a few other horses to use in the other races. So as we look at how things line up, races 6 through 10 in the pick 5, races 7 through 10 in the late pick 4, we've got a single who could be 6, 8, 10 to 1 here in race number 8. So let's go for it, because I think we're going to be narrowed down, to the main favorites as we get to the feature race in the 9th. The 2 favorites look very strong in the 9th race, the Alcibiades Stakes. So I don't think we're going to be able to get a big price in that one. Let's see if we can't get a single home in the 8th race, one of our key plays of the day in there, Appellate. In the 9th and featured Alcibiades Stakes, let's see who the fans are, who we have for the fans amongst the handicapper selectors box. Vivi's Dream and Bright Work, 2 horses that threw it down in the debutante stakes earlier this meet. Since then, both have gone on to stakes wins. They come back in a rematch. They're going to be awfully strong. If you haven't seen these 2 in action before, let's take a look at how they matched up at Ellis Park.
For home, trying to cut the corner on Vivi's Dream. Whip is out on Vivi's Dream. Bright Work has put away Vivi's Dream so far. Kicks away by 2. Vivi's Dream has to re-rally. She's trying hard. Bright Work digs in. Vivi's Dream still second. Time running out. Bright Work desperate for the wire. Holds on.
Bright Work got the best of her that day, and as we go from a sprint race now to a route, which one of these fillies, Vivi's Dream or Bright Work, will be most effective over the route distance? I gave a slight lean in here to Bright Work because I just think her form has been superb over 4 races. She's held it. She hasn't bounced. She's taken it from Keeneland in the debut this spring to Ellis to Saratoga. You win a couple stakes at Saratoga. You've done your work in the Adirondack and the Spinaway. I don't know if she can go a route distance, though. The pedigree kind of leans a bit towards a miler for her. The mile and a 16th, you've got the short stretch finish line here that could help her in the Jessamine Stakes. I'm going to give her the shot under Irad Ortiz to hold off Vivi's Dream in here again like she did at Ellis Park. Vivi's Dream's last was really good. It was that one-turn mile at Churchill. I tell you, the horses who run well in the one-turn miles do well here in the mile and a 16th race. I think Vivi's Dream's actually going to get bet the favoritism in here, and I can't really separate these 2 that much. So I think I'm going to get the better price on Bright Work, actually, the filly who's undefeated, because Vivi's Dream's last was a big number, a big win margin. They get inflated often, the win margins. But you got Irad Ortiz on one side on Bright Work, who's going to take more money probably from the casual fans than Brian Hernandez will on Vivi's Dream. So how these 2 end up on the tote board, I might be misreading it. I don't know how you may read it on which one of these 2 will be favored. I would say if you're going to take one to make a win bet on, play the one that has the larger price of the 2, because I really do think they're evenly matched. If you can get a better price on one than the other, but in the multi-race wagers, I think you have to use them both. The way to gamble on this race is to assume that one of those 2 is going to win the race. And I think the horse for second you might want to watch out for is Alley's Beach. Alley's Beach is a late running closer, 4th place finisher in the Spinaway. Closers have had some decent success in this race over the years. On the Colt side, not as much with the fillies. The Colt side, the Breeders' Futurity, we've seen the deep closers do better than we've seen here in the Alcibiades Stakes. But again, here at Keeneland, this time of year when everybody's stretching out in distance in these 2-year-old stakes races, you wonder which ones can last and which ones can't. Alley's Beach by Omaha Beach out of a Bernardini mare. And with the running style we saw at Saratoga, I think this is the horse who can close from off the pace with Flavian Pratt for Tom Amoss and get a share of it. So I'm looking at an exacta in this race, taking the 2 major favorites over Alley's Beach. And hopefully we can get a decent price on Alley's Beach in here to try to, get an exacta that makes the race worth betting. Otherwise, if we're just looking at these 2, I think you try to get through the race with a multi-race play, pick 4, pick 5, using both the 7 and the 5. If you have a strong opinion on one or the other, this is where you would want to single, because basically everybody who goes too deep are going to be either cutting the cost of their ticket in combinations in half, or doubling the cost of their ticket to use 2 versus 1 in a leg. So the most beneficial thing you can do is to single in here if you can. But the fact that I'm going to single a pellet in race number 8 is going to allow me now on budget to use a sensible 2 deep in here with the 7 and the 5, Bright Work and VV's Dream. I'll try to get Alley's Beach in second. Again, I'm on an island with that runner. Nobody else has that one picked in the top 3. So exacta 7-1 and 5-1, the way I would attack intra-race. Let's go to the 10th and final on the card opening day, and we'll advance here to the final leg of the Keeneland Turf Pick 3. The Keeneland Turf Pick 3, again, $3 minimum wager on races 5, 8, and 10. 10th race on the card, allowance, second level, turf milers going in here. This is a race where favorites have underperformed. They only hit about 26-27% in turf route allowance races here during the fall meet, with an average winner of about 6-1 odds. So do not fear taking a price play in the 10th and final race. These races generally set up for a fairly juicy return. I've got Chase the Crown in here, Chasing the Crown as my top choice. When we talk about fall meet turf route allowance races here at Keeneland, 2 trainers have stood out in terms of number of victories. Graham Motion's got 25, the most of anyone. He will send out script in this race. Mike Maker has 21 wins, second most to Graham Motion's 25. He's got Chasing the Crown. So take the 2 trainers who have the most success in turf route allowance races here in the fall meet. You've got Motion with script. You've got Maker with Chasing the Crown. And I like to change to Joel Rosario to ride Chasing the Crown this time. This is a horse who's run second, beaten a half length in each of his last 3 starts. One of the best finishers in the game, Joel Rosario. He's not having a 2023 like we're used to seeing from Rosario, but he can get a horse to finish. And a horse who's come up just short in 3 straight races could really like the benefit of getting Joel Rosario in the saddle. So I'm taking Chasing the Crown to get us out a winner in the finale, but do not be afraid of taking a price play in here if you can find one. These races, again, average a 6-1 winner throughout the course of the last 16, 17 years of our database. That'll wrap up the first edition of the Keeneland Look Ahead. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll try to keep it around 30, 40 minutes for these throughout the course of the season. Want to remind you, first post just after 1 o'clock on Friday for the Alcibiades Day program. And of course, on Saturday and Sunday this weekend, we've got big time racing. Saturday's Turf Mile, the Keeneland Turf Mile, just an exceptional field. Defending champion Annapolis is back. We've got Master of the Seas for Charlie Appleby, who came across the seas to win the Woodbine Mile last time. We've also got the return of Up to the Mark, the best turfer in America the first half of the year, but not seen since Belmont Stakes Day in the Manhattan. What a great field we've got coming up for you in Saturday's Keeneland Turf Mile. And we also have the First Lady Stakes for the milers. Maybe the horse is looking for the filly and mare turf. In Italian, the defending champion back in Saturday's First Lady Stakes. Sunday's card features the Spinster Stakes, where Nest will be in action against Idiomatic in a really good showdown in this year's Spinster Stakes. That's going to wrap up things for this edition of the Keeneland Look Ahead podcast. Be sure to join Caden Bradar and Scott Hazelton at 11:30 Eastern for Keeneland today to preview the Friday card. I'll be back on Friday night, 8:30 Eastern, with the premiere of the stream for Saturday's handicapping podcast. Good luck, everybody, and thanks for joining.